So let's address some of the little issues that's happening on the smaller devices. Our website looks okay at some of the larger sizes, the spacing's okay, the size of everything's okay, but when we get down to the mobile sizes, the line height is too large, and the way in which these lines, the headlines and the subhead, are breaking is a little bit awkward, and also the spacing over here on the right, it would look much better if the image was centered. So let's just adjust the media queries to reflect these changes. I'm going to go into the document that we are working on, and I'm going to go down to the section that contains our media queries for the smaller devices. So this has a max width of 500, so anything under 500 is going to have these styles applied to it. Let's address the issue that's happening with the image first. That actually has to do with the fact that the margin settings and the overall width of the document are kind of throwing this off. So the overall width is set to 85%. If we look on the rule that we have on the body tag, we have a width of 85, a margin on the top of 1em, and then auto set to right and left, and 0 set for the bottom. So I'm just going to copy part of this rule, and we'll come down into the smaller media query. I'm going to paste this in, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to just change the overall width to something a little bit larger, 94%. We don't need the extra space around the edges, and I'm going to get rid of this 1em on the top. We'll just change that to 0. We'll actually just have it be 0 for the top and the bottom, and auto for the right and the left. And then I need to make sure that I close this body tag. So if we save that and check this out in the browser, when we refresh our page, you can see that the image is now centered and it's not kind of thrown off. So that took care of the issue that we were having there, and this looks good on both an iPhone 4 and an iPhone 5. And then of course the larger sizes are going to ignore that because the overall width of those larger size devices are going to not be affected. Let's go back in and let's address the size of the headlines. I'm going to go ahead, and if we look up here, we have rules for our H1 and our H2 that are setting the font size and font weight and font color on H1. I'm just going to copy both of these rules, and I'll come down into my media query, and I'm going to paste these rules in, and we don't want to change the color or the font weight, so I'll just eliminate those. For the H1, we're going to go ahead and we're going to alter the font size and make it a little bit smaller. So instead of 2.8, I'm going to make it 2.4. I'm also going to add another rule for line height, and this will just ensure that it doesn't have quite as much line height. I'm going to set that to 1.2. And then we'll go ahead and we'll set the font size in the H2. We'll reduce this down from 1.8 to 1.6. Let's save the page and check it out in the browser. And when I refresh the page, you can see that now the spacing on this text looks much better. The text isn't wrapping, it's not taking up quite as much vertical space. So these small adjustments can really improve the overall experience.